Let's turn to matters in the United States. Kamala Harris will be holding her first fundraiser this Saturday evening since Joe Biden pulled out of the presidential race. Harris has become the Democrats' likely nominee to challenge Donald Trump for the highest seat in the land. She's traveling to Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and she's hoping to raise around $1.4 million from around 800 people present there. Harris already securing more than $100 million in the first 2 days after Biden stepped aside. That's a record. And aides say that trend has continued. Now, at a religious rally in Florida on Friday, Donald Trump took his first major swipes at Harris. He accused her of being an anti-Semite who plans to allow the murder of newborn babies. Harris is married to a Jewish man, but Trump took aim all the same, given that she had skipped Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to U.S. Congress on Wednesday. She was honoring a prior commitment. Let's unpack where we're at in the terms of what language we might expect going forward in the race. And in order to do that, I'm joined on set by Ellen Kuntz. She's the Program Director and Finance Professor at INSEC Business School in Paris. Ellen, thank you so much for joining us.
Delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And you are one of the few people who has been following Kamala Harris in her political career for a very long time.
Yes.
You wrote a book on her 4 years ago, if I'm correct.
Did. In August of 2020, when she became the vice presidential nominee.
The book's name is?
Portrait de Vie. I wrote it in French, and it's portraits of women who seek higher office in France, and specifically the incredible story of Kamala Harris.
You say it's an incredible story. Why, in your eyes, is this such a momentous story? And is this something that is speaking to donors? I just want to know why we are seeing such massive donations at this point in time.
And it's actually something I couldn't have predicted myself because she's been characterized as sort of very careful and not very charismatic. And given the chance, she's really just exploded onto the scene. But I think it also shows how hungry Americans were for a better choice than Biden versus Trump. So it's really interesting to see. I think there was a lot of pent-up excitement, and I'm glad to see that a lot of these sums, these incredible amounts of money that are being raised are being done by small donors and not just the billionaire class.
And is that, I mean, because we have never seen the likes of this before, what is appealing to these small donors in a way that Biden couldn't, for instance?
Well, the first thing, it always feels quite indecent to speak about age, but she is 22 years younger than Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, by the way. So she's youthful, and all of a sudden, she's only 59. That seems extremely young compared to the other candidates. She has an incredible track record just professionally. She was district attorney in San Francisco. She was attorney general in California. She was the first black woman ever. I have to be careful about this. She was, in any case, the only black woman who was elected state senator. And since she left office to become vice president, we have not had any other black women state senators anywhere in the country.
But now right-wing critics will point to the fact, will point to her incarceration record as a prosecutor.
Yes.
How would you basically respond to that?
Well, she's not necessarily a progressive. In fact, when she ran against Biden in 2020, and still in 2019, she tried to position herself as a progressive prosecutor. But I think if we look more at the reality of her track record, she was just an aggressive prosecutor is what she was.
Aggressive.
Yes.
If that is going to fly, because currently polling does put her still behind Trump. At least if you look at the Wall Street Journal, they put out a poll yesterday, and
Yes.
It does put her still 2 points behind Donald Trump. It is better than what Biden was polling at. Now she's turning towards the economy as a signifier, saying
Sure.
that we are going to be protecting it. The Republicans say she's neglected inflation under her watch. How's it looking? How do you think the message is going to come from her?
I think it's amazing that she caught up so quickly. It hasn't been a week. Tomorrow it will be a week. It seems like already months and months. So I think that the Republicans are very much caught off guard. I think that this candidate is very triggering for them. The 3.5-year record that we're looking at, it's really not her record. It is Joe Biden's record.
But she was vice president.
Yes, she was. But we have a system where, on purpose, the vice president is very much in the background and stays clear of letting, we have this one president at a time system, so not getting in their way. And when we do hear too much about a vice president, it usually is not good news. I'm thinking of someone like Dick Cheney. So she did the right thing by being in the background. Nevertheless, she was obviously observing and watching the job, and actually in many ways in the shadow of Joe Biden doing the job. So she's very, very familiar with everything that needs to be done as president, both domestically and internationally.
Now, Trump is attacking her, calling her an anti-Semite, despite being married to a Jewish man.
Yes.
We saw her meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu on his trip now to the United States. She didn't attend his speech in Congress. But a lot of questions are going to be asked about the U.S. policy on Gaza if she does become president, and how that might differ from what Joe Biden has basically been pursuing. What can you tell us in terms of insight into what she might, or how she might approach the situation there?
Even though she's going to really always applaud Joe Biden's track record, I think specifically on Gaza, it will be a major departure. It was very unfortunate in these last few months when people were calling, our beloved Joe Biden Genocide Joe. So she absolutely has to reverse that. And I think that she's able and willing to make a departure from his kind of blind support of Netanyahu.
And just a final note on Harris. How does she make up the numbers in these 5 months to come?
So I say it often, we have a system where 50 states vote, but only 7 or 8 states decide, and that's our indirect elections with an electoral college. So she's really after these 7 or 8 swing states. She's soon to pick a vice presidential, candidate who's going to run with her, and she would do very well. It's quite obvious to take somebody from one of these swing states. It's likely to be either the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, or the senator from Arizona, which is also a border state, not just a swing state, but also a border state. It would be Mark Kelly, with an incredible record, former astronaut, he's was captain in the Navy, so stellar record. And it really makes the pick of J.D. Vance on the Republican side seem extremely lazy. They had the laziest convention, and it's really costing them now.
Well, we'll see, obviously, how much it does cost them, if it does at all. When the election does come around, it's certainly going to be a very interesting race indeed if Kamala Harris does secure that Democrat nomination.
She has it. To be fair, she was on the ballot. I voted in that primary. So it wasn't Biden on the ballot. It was Biden-Harris on the ballot. That's why she's legitimate heir to both the funds and the votes. But she still said she wanted to earn them. It only took 72 hours for her to earn roughly 3,000 delegate votes.
The convention, though, is still coming
That's
up,
right.
And we'll see how that all transpires. Unfortunately, That's where we have to leave it, Ellen. Thank you so much. Ellen Kuntz, joining us from the INSEC Business School in Paris, also Kamala Harris, encyclopedia of knowledge. Well, stay